Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the Greg and Lisa show, or the Greg and Grandma show. As you can see, Lisa's not here this week, but we have Grandma once again, so welcome.
Oh, thank you, Sonny. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for letting me co-host your
Oh, of
show.
course, of
And
course. Always
I brought my heart hanky just in case I needed it.
the heart hanky.
Yeah,
Excellent.
you just never know. Our show today is on Stop the Madness.
Okay, so we're going to talk
We're
about.
going to talk
Yeah.
about stopping the madness in this world.
Okay.
What do you think about that, Sonny?
I think this is a very good topic, and somewhat ironic that you and I are going to talk about stopping madness, but it's all
Yes,
right.
yes,
It's all right. A little irony never hurt anybody.
that's true. And when they iron, if they use spray starch, it works good.
Oh, yeah, it does.
Yes, it
Yeah,
does.
I like.
We used to have to iron all the time back in my day.
Mm-hmm.
Now they don't even know what an ironing board
And it's
is.
so weird too, because how else do we get the wrinkles out, Grandma?
I think a lot of people wear wrinkled clothes.
Oh, they do. Yeah,
Yes, they
yeah,
do.
yeah.
But there is a trick, Sonny. If you put them in the dryer with a little warm, damp cloth and you put it in the dryer, the wrinkles will fall out.
Right, the
Yeah,
steam. See,
yeah,
everybody. Already,
yeah.
this is valuable.
There's another trick too, Sonny. If you don't have dryer sheets, you can crumple up a piece of aluminum foil, and that will take the static electricity out.
Yeah, I've
So,
heard about that too.
yeah,
Because that's one of the main purposes a dryer sheet does is
that's
that.
right, Sonny.
So
That's right.
some scents and stuff they put on there, but it's really mainly the static.
Yes, it is. But we're going to talk about the stopping the madness in this world because there's so much madness going on that it is just crazy.
There is a ton.
It is. And you know, we as Christ followers, we do need to stand up.
Absolutely.
So stand up, Sonny.
Like right now. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see now.
Yes, we're going to stand up.
My head's out of the shot though. That's really bad filmmaking there for us, but that was a good moment.
Yes, it was. But, Sonny, in Louisiana, the governor signed to put the Ten Commandments back into the school classroom
Well, that's
beginning January of 2025.
that's good move by the governor.
It was a good thing.
Yeah.
And there's already lawsuits filed because of the separation of church and state.
Yep.
And, they go after that clause that's really just ridiculous. And, if the parents would parent, it would be different. But when did parents stop parenting?
Grandma, that's a tough one because you see examples of that all over.
You sure do. And it was 1962, 1963 when they took prayer out of the classroom
Oh
and out
boy,
of the
yeah.
schools.
And that's been a long time ago now. We're in 2024, so we're talking 61 years ago.
That's right. And in 1980, they took the Ten Commandments and removed them from school.
That's 44 years in and of itself.
That's
right there.
And what has it gained us?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It was just ridiculous. And prayer never hurt anybody.
That's true.
And there is even a scientific study by a person from a school that found that in 1982 and 1983, they found that there was benefits to prayer.
Oh, yeah.
There's positive psychological benefits, physical and emotional influences, because focusing your emotions on praying, it can help relieve stress, it can calm fears, and it can reduce anxiety.
Right. And as we've talked about on the show before, if you are genuine and, if you're a genuine Christ follower and you're being genuine, you ask somebody who doesn't happen to believe if you can pray for them, most people don't even have a problem with that.
No, they don't. And there was a cardiologist that did the study, and he said if praying on a regular basis, it can have an enormous effect on the psyche of an individual by stabilizing their moods, giving them a feeling of well being, improving their interactions with others, and positively changing the way that they conduct themselves.
Geez, Grandma, it's almost like you're saying prayer does exactly what the Bible says it would do.
It does. And so, why are people so in
Eh,
arms? They get their panties in a bunch,
yeah,
and they shouldn't, because it's a good thing. It's just like the show you and Lisa did on laughter is the best medicine.
absolutely.
You
It's
know
another, yeah, yep.
why?
And
Why?
it's so odd because if most people really aren't bothered by it, why does this?
Because they think they have rights. They think they have rights. When did we become such an entitled society that we think we have to have rights for
Looks like
everything?
that was somewhere between 1963 and 1980.
I know, which is wrong. Which is wrong. Because anything that is good for us, they want to take it away.
Mm-hmm. And it's so odd because it's going way past, we've gone way past separation of church and state now to just get out of here. And I don't think that was ever the point of, that part of the Constitution.
Well, no, Sonny. And if there was a problem with calling them the Ten Commandments, then rename
That's
them.
true.
Rename
Yeah.
them rules to live by.
Right, because that's what it is, and it's certainly not
Yes,
sacrilegious or anything like that to say that. I mean, the point was not exactly what it's called. The point is how you live your life.
exactly. And it teaches you do not lie. You do not steal. You do honor your mother and your father.
Hmm.
Those are things that get ingrained in people's brains, and it does have a positive
Yeah, and
impact.
I would defy anybody to find like a bad rule in the Ten Commandments. Which one of those things is bad?
Right, exactly. So I don't understand it. And after prayer was removed from the school, the public classrooms, there was an increase in violent crimes
Ooh,
sixfold,
wow.
the divorce rate tripled, birth and single mothers had increased fivefold, teenage suicide tripled, and SAT scores had dropped
And
10%.
we're talking since 63, so it's been a slow thing. It probably didn't seem like a lot at first, but now here we are, and it's massive.
It is massive. It is crazy. And it's crazy because, parenting obviously isn't happening at home. Our kids would have respect for their parents.
Hmm.
They would respect their teachers and they would do what they were asked to do instead of worrying about guns and violence. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
And we do have to stop the madness.
Yeah, yeah. The guns and violence in schools, it's just terrible. School should be a safe place. I mean, obviously it's a place of education, but you shouldn't have to go there and worry about guns and that kind of thing. And I realize that's not the world we live in, but it's probably the world we should be living in.
That's true. So why is it when everything is good for us, people want to take it away? Just because they can.
That's about it.
Not because it's good for the people as a whole,
Hmm.
but because they think it's important to prove a point.
Hmm.
Well, where are they when the kids get shot in school? Where are they during all of the violence? Because they didn't want people to pray in school and they just, wanted to assert their authority, just like in Louisiana.
Yeah,
And shame on
it
them.
is. It is a
Just
shame
shame on them.
because I think a lot of violence certainly would be prevented with prayer. It would be hard to do violence against somebody who you knew had genuinely prayed for you. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that's going to erase all crime, but I think it would certainly help.
It's true. And there was a study too that said that individuals who have a relationship with Jesus Christ or the religious commit less crimes than those who are least religious.
And that's not to say that church people in the church don't commit crimes. The church is certainly, you know, Catholic Church to name, but a lot of different churches of all denominations have done some terrible things. But this is just a general number. It's not saying that church is just
Well, no,
infallible.
they're saying that, there are religious people who commit crimes, but it is at a lower rate.
Yeah,
And
that's all
so,
it is. It's not to
yeah,
say it doesn't happen. It's
right,
just
right. But if more, crimes happen to those that are least religious, then why try to stop religion? And it's
it's
not so much stopping religion, it's about stopping the relationship with Jesus Christ.
right, and it's once again that separation of church and state. It was never meant to get rid of one or the other. A lot of the founding fathers were God fearing people, and I'm not saying they were perfect, but I don't think it was their intent to just get rid of religion.
No, it wasn't. Because our money says in God we trust.
It still does.
It still
How
does.
much longer is it going to say that, you think, Grandma?
I don't know, because the Bible says there's going to be a one world government. And when that happens, I don't know. I don't know.
Probably. Oh, at that time, it's certainly not going to say "In God We Trust" on it. But yeah,
But
before that time, who knows? Who knows what people might go after next?
that's right. And another thing this week on Stopping the Madness was about the Attorney General,
Oh,
the Surgeon General.
the Surgeon General. Oh yes,
Yeah.
the Attorney
Well,
General might have something to do with this too eventually. But
that's so true. That's so true. But they want to put a warning, the Surgeon General, he wants to put a warning on social media.
it's probably a wise idea, honestly.
I think so too. But again, there's guff.
Well, yeah, I
People
mean,
are giving guff.
people are making a ton of money off of that.
But there was a good point brought up. Don't we have ratings for movies
Mhm.
on whether what your child should watch?
Absolutely, we do,
And
and we have television ratings too.
we do.
So,
We
and
do.
not that they're always perfect, but it's probably better than nothing. Gives
That's
somebody
true.
something to go by.
That's right. But social media has been around for decades, and
Certainly
there's
has.
lots of reports out there that shows the mental abilities and effects it's having on our teenagers and our
Sure,
society.
sure.
You know, and I know Lisa, she doesn't like cell phones either,
No,
and I don't either. And I think that they have a time and a place, just
absolutely
like everything, just like the Bible says, everything in moderation.
right.
You know,
Something a lot of ways. It was better when a phone was just a phone, and if my phone was just a phone, we'd find some other way to shoot this show. I'm sure.
we sure would. We sure would. But a warning label, people don't think that a warning label is going to help.
Well, you have to adhere to it. I mean, we can warn people all we want, Dave. You still have to do something about it. There
That's
still has to
true.
be an action.
That's true. But he's not only saying that it's the warning label that is the miracle cure, he is saying the tech companies, the families, and everybody involved need to work together to make social media safe for our kids.
Yeah, it certainly has
And if
gotten out of hand, and I can tell you, nobody who came up with those platforms and coded them was thinking about this kind of stuff at the start, and no one thought of it until relatively recently, and here we are. Is it a we're trying to put a very we're trying to put Pandora back in the box.
but it's a money game.
It absolutely is a
It
money
is a
game.
money
Yeah,
game. They've been around long enough that they could do better at putting preventatives out there that would not allow people where they
yeah.
don't
And
belong.
from a technical perspective,
Yes,
there are things you can do.
there
There's
are.
technology we have right now you can do.
That's right. There is. And so they have to have some accountability. But they like it because it's a clickbait business.
Well, and
And the
certainly,
more clicks
yeah,
they get, the more money they make in advertising
right.
and sponsors.
And it went unregulated, for so long.
Right.
We're over 20 years now into this social media thing.
That's right. So, 75% of the teens from 13 to 17, 1 out of 3 is on it constantly. So the platforms, they do require you to be 13 years old, but they don't have anything in place that knows whether you're 13 or not.
No, you can put whatever you want on
That's
there.
right.
There's no proof. And I mean, it 13-year-olds don't have driver's licenses or IDs, but perhaps, if this is going to be a thing, maybe that should be a thing. There's no way for them to prove that, so maybe that age should be moved up. I don't know.
Maybe it should be moved back because 40% of the kids ages 8 to 12 are on social media. So when you think about it, Sonny, it's ridiculous. We gotta stop the madness.
Yeah,
We gotta stop.
I suppose I could say all day long. I think they should change the age to 18. That person would have an ID. You could prove they were old enough to be on the thing. That if any of those big social media giants are watching me, I'm probably going to get kicked off a few platforms if they hear that one.
But you know what? It has to be the safety of our children and our kids first.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's
know,
ultimately that is more important than how much money somebody's making. And if they were really as good at tech and business as they think they are, they would still be able to find a way.
that's right. But also, Sonny, there's criminals out there that take advantage of the information that these tech companies have on their
Oh,
computers.
absolutely. And it's obviously social media. Facebook has a lot of info. But we talk about these phones again, and most people, not everybody, most people have a smartphone that's either Android, Google, or Apple, and those companies have. I mean, that's a one-shot hack for a lot of criminals to get
It is
your
because
information to get into everywhere.
not my phone,
Not your phone, no,
not my
certainly.
phone. I don't put
I,
nothing on my phone.
no, and yep,
I'm old school and I like being old school.
can't hack a rotary phone, can they?
No, they can't. They can't. And they'd have to steal my trash. And I'm even ahead of them on the trash because I shred it all.
That's a
You
smart
know?
idea, yeah.
And so, good luck to them.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck to them. But adolescents use 3 hours a day that they are on their phones.
And that's an average, right? Because I
Yeah,
definitely know
it's
some.
average.
I know some people who it's way more than that.
Yes. And 8th to 10th graders, they spend 3 to 5 hours a day on their phones.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And that's part of the reason it causes, they have poor mental health issues and outcomes because they don't know how to socialize anymore.
Right, and this is not a new problem. I think when we're all forced to be inside for COVID-19 and use these platforms a lot more, it came to light. But none of this is new. None of these problems are new.
No, they're not new, but they're more readily available.
Yeah, it's become that
Yes,
period of time made stuff a lot easier, and as if our mental states weren't bad enough just having to go through that thing, and
that's
then
right.
all this stuff too.
That's right. And so some of the negative impacts that we need to be aware of is the depression and the anxiety.
And those are serious, and we talk about suicide rates and stuff, and right there is
That's
where
right.
it starts.
Yep. And bad sleeping, inadequate sleep, which disrupts the neurological development.
I was going to say, and Lisa and I have talked about this on the show. Sleep is one of the very critical things you do as a person to keep yourself healthy.
It is, and God designed it that way. That's the time that our cells regenerate and our body rejuvenates and prepares for the next day.
Mm-hmm.
Not to stay up on games or playing on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not studying for school and you're not getting your sleep. And it's caused people to engage in self-harm and suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
That's one of the issues that the Surgeon General made, was that the algorithms are written such that a kid, entered his information and basically the algorithm told him to commit suicide. And he did. So where's the responsibility?
Yeah, and that's
And those are people that are supposed to be good at their jobs.
That's a yeah.
So
you just I get that things are technically difficult, and I get that algorithms grow and it's hard to pin that stuff down, but you can't let something like that happen. You just can't.
You can't. You can't replace that life.
No, you can't.
You can replace a computer.
Absolutely.
And the kids have poor self-esteem, eating disorders, poor body images, feeling of isolation, and they lack exercise, and they are exposed to online harassment and cyberbullying.
And a lot of those you just read off lead into each other, and you you start
Yes,
on one, you pick up another, you go back to the one, you pick up another one. It's
it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And before you know it, you have multiple snowmen and multiple snowballs because it just keeps rolling and gathering.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're not building snowmen. These snowballs, we're building people with terrible mental states.
That's right. That is right. And you know the risk factors are for girls are higher than for boys. But it also relies on the fact that they already have some mental issues and some conditions.
Hmm.
And so it's like adding fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. And there's additional risks. There's hate based, content.
Hmm.
We talk about what's going on today, the anti Semitism, and
Hmm.
everything else. It all stems from, in my opinion, not following God's word and
Yeah.
not living with moral turpitude and not living the way God designed us to live.
I got to say, one, I haven't heard the word turpitude in quite a long time, so thank you for that. And yeah, you're right. I mean, that's platform or not, if everybody was living the way God intended, we wouldn't have this stuff.
We wouldn't. We wouldn't be where we are today. We wouldn't be discussing the prayers out of the
And
classroom.
certainly nobody would ever be perfect, and some of this kind of
No.
stuff would still happen on some level. But I mean, it is huge, and it is everywhere, and so much of that could be prevented. Maybe not all of it, but a ton of it.
Well, yeah. But there's just a blatant disrespect for
Yep.
life today.
Yeah.
And that's sad
Hmm.
because God's valued our lives. He gave us a worth. He gave us a purpose. He gave us a plan. And He loves everybody, just like we are supposed to love
Hmm.
everybody. And I'm not saying that there aren't no pros to social media
No. This
because
show.
there are.
This show.
Yeah, our show is on social media.
Hmm. YouTube counts as a social network, and we're on
Yeah,
Facebook.
that's right. But it gives you an opportunity to connect with friends.
Hmm.
And it also, gives you an opportunity to connect with people that do same hobbies as
Right.
you or have the
Right.
same interests
Hmm.
as you. It also gives you an opportunity to see what's going on in your community.
Hmm.
And it also, gives you the opportunity to seek help with online therapy.
Right. And it's oh, you are absolutely right with all that. And just to add to that list, as we learned during the aforementioned pandemic, if somebody can't get up, you can't get up to go visit family. It's you know the ease of which we can do any kind of video call nowadays is crazy, and you can get in touch with family you wouldn't otherwise be able to see or speak to.
That's true. But it does go back to everything in moderation.
Absolutely.
Do you know there was a time when Sega Genesis and all that gaming was considered not good too? And it's still considered not good
Hmm.
because people become obsessed and addicted to it.
Well, you almost obviously everybody's responsible for their own decisions, but esports, you can go pro in that now. So
Mhm. Yes, you can. But look at the boy in Florida. He was gaming with somebody in another state
mhm.
and he got mad. He went to Florida, bought a hammer, and went to that guy's house and hit him in the head with the hammer.
Uh,
And do you know what his response was and why he did it? Was because he was a bad man online and playing games. So when you look at that, Sonny, all of this stuff plays on your mental mind.
Absolutely.
And we have to be more cautious and we have to be more on top of our game when we are looking at our kids, when we are looking at our lives, and we are looking at how we are living.
Yeah.
Because we are all going to be accountable one day.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, even those of us who are gonna, as they say, go through the pearly gates. I don't know if it exactly goes like that, but even those of us that do that still have to give an account for our
We
entire
do.
lives.
We do. And there are no secrets that are going to be hidden. He reveals them all.
Hmm.
And so we all have our accounts to take
And
for.
that's why the relationship with Christ is so important, because when you have that,
That's right.
you still give an account for your life, but God sees his son Jesus when he looks at you.
That's right. And he knows the desires and the motives of your heart,
Hmm.
on why you do what you do. But adolescence is a time, it's a critical period of development.
Oh yeah.
And it's a time where their brain is, learning and growing. And the teens have an intensified sensitivity to stuff.
Hmm.
And social media takes advantage of that.
Oh yeah.
And I was listening to a radio show today on the way over, and they were talking about gender dysphoria
Oh yeah.
and gender theology, where gender dysphoria is an actual medical diagnosis. But gender ideology is just sharing your opinion. Now, why is it they think they can share their opinion on those things in the classroom and in different parts of our kids' lives, but they can't share a prayer and they can't share the Ten Commandments? And the statistic today was 65% of the people believe that gender is determined at birth. And that
yeah.
is a growing number.
And the whole all these gender identity issues with social media the way it is, it's hard to blame kids for getting confused. It's
No.
ultimately a bad thing, and ultimately needs to be corrected, but how do you blame a kid with a without a fully developed brain for getting confused by this stuff that's all
Well,
just
that's
out
true.
there?
But it goes back to parents being
Well, right,
parents.
right. We're not preventing,
You know?
and
No.
educating your children and all that sort of.
They took spanking out of school.
Hmm.
When I went to school, you still got paddled.
Yeah.
And before, the teachers used to know if the parents knew that the kids were in trouble, the teachers knew they were going to get in trouble at home. Well, now they don't know that because so many of the parents are absent.
Right.
And
It's.
that's wrong.
Hmm.
And so what do we say? Here, teachers teach our kids. And then we complain about what our teachers teach our kids.
Well,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
we tell them to take out prayer and take out the Ten Commandments. Well, shame on you.
Hmm.
Shame on you.
Absolutely.
And prayer and school and the Ten Commandments, they're all good things. They all have health benefits.
Yeah.
And nobody says you have to believe in any certain God. When you pray to whatever God you believe in.
Or not. I mean, I
Yes.
don't think, at least in my history in school, is prayer was out by then, but we still stood up and did the Pledge of Allegiance and said one nation under God. And I don't recall, there were a few people who kind of opted out of that. And I don't recall, there was no teacher or kids ever
Mm-hmm.
harassing anybody about that choice.
No, no. We did what was expected of us. We had respect for our teachers and we had respect for the principals.
Hmm.
And we listened to our parents. I go back to the parents need to be parents.
Hmm.
And they need to start standing up just like our Christ followers need to stand up for Christ.
Absolutely.
So we should stand up again, Greg.
Hmm. Oh, yes, let's do it.
We're standing up. Oh,
Uh-oh.
I just stepped on my glasses.
Uh-oh.
Just stepped on my
See?
bifocals.
But, yeah.
So,
Oh, boy. Oh, look at
oh
that.
yeah, it'll be okay.
Surprised we don't have more of this kind of thing happen on the show. There was the time I almost stepped on a pair of scissors when I went to sit
I
down,
know.
but
I remember that.
yep.
I remember that. So, Greg, what else on the Stop the Madness do we need to talk about today?
Social media is, I don't know, it's so huge, and I've added a few things in there, but a lot of people aren't going to like me saying this. The idea of some kind of rating or something, because just giving 13-year-olds, even if you say people aren't lying about their age to sign up for these profiles, even giving 13-year-olds free reign to all this sort of information is just, it's terrible. They can't handle all that. No, I mean, who could? I mean, adults shouldn't have to handle all that kind of stuff.
No. And when you look at everything that's available on their phones at the touch of a fingertip, before they had to go to the store and try to buy dirty magazines.
Well, yeah,
And
and
now the dirty magazine is right there. and their
And
face.
with the phones, there are and I can help anybody with this. There are parental control things that can be set up, and they're not perfect, but one, you have to do it.
Yes,
You have to do it, and even at that, you still have to monitor it. It's not like you set it and forget. I mean, kids are smart. If they want to get around something, they are going to find a way to get around that thing.
they are. But as parents, we need to
Yeah,
remember
that's why.
we're
Yeah,
parents.
parents still have to
That's right.
parent.
The Surgeon General's call to action is not just for, you know, warning label.
Hmm.
They are saying the policymakers,
Hmm.
the tech companies,
Hmm.
the researchers, the funders, the families, advocates, and everybody must work together as a multi pronged strategy to create a safe and healthy social media environment for our young people.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing because, like I said before, the way it is now, you're putting Pandora back in the box, and I'm racking my brain like, how do you fix it without just tearing it down and building it back up?
Well, sometimes, Tony, we need to go back
Well,
to the
well, yeah, well,
basics.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
what? Well, would it hurt if we didn't have the internet for a week?
Nothing.
Nobody's going to die because we don't have the internet.
No.
Now, maybe because they're having withdrawal symptoms because they're so addicted to it. Who knows these days, Sonny?
Well, yeah, that certainly can happen, but we have to at least admit that yes, it's possible to live without the internet.
Well, I look at one of the local cities that was hacked,
Hmm.
and their offices were closed down for a week
Hmm.
because they were hacked and they weren't going to pay the money.
And
And I
there
don't blame them.
and there's lots of stories
Yes,
about that, and
yes.
smaller towns with older systems are
Hmm.
certainly more susceptible, but really,
So we just
yeah.
built a better platform for more criminals.
Hmm.
No, we just made it easier for them to have the kings to the kingdom.
Hmm.
How smart are we?
Well,
Not very.
no, we're not.
But for parents and caregivers, you need to create family media plan with agreed expectations to establish healthy social media boundaries at home.
Right.
And I know I heard on your show a few weeks ago about not allowing the cell phone in the bedroom, which is to me is a good idea
Oh, that's yeah.
because it allows them to sleep
Hmm.
and it's out of their hands and they don't need it in
Yeah.
the bedroom.
Right. That move alone doesn't erase all these hours people are spending on there, but when you get the sleep, you might be better mentally able to deal with some of it and prevent some of the stuff we.
That's true.
Yep.
And also creating a tech free zone and encouraging in person interactions, which may involve limiting the use of devices around bedtime and meal times. And, prioritizing family relationships and building social bonds.
Hmm.
Kids don't know how to interact anymore
No, they don't.
because they're either looking at a TV or they're looking at a switch or they're looking at a phone or they're looking at a screen or they're on their, all of their devices. And that's our fault if we're not doing and teaching them the way they're supposed to.
Hmm.
And the next thing is to model a response for the social media because kids are like a sponge and they learn by what they see. So if we want them to be social media responsible, then we as adults have to be social
That's the
media
key. That's
responsible.
the key. So much of it is just watching what we do.
It is. And that old saying, it's not do as I do, it's do as I say. Well, that ain't right. But that was a saying for a long time.
Hmm.
And it's like now we have to teach them the right way.
Hmm.
And that's one of the things that's good about, going to church.
Yeah.
Is it causes them to interact with their other kids in their Sunday school classes or their
Absolutely.
youth groups.
Absolutely.
Yes. And it's good for them. And they need to put the prayer back in school and they need to put the Ten Commandments up and just call them rules to live by.
Yeah,
And just
that's
stop the madness.
objectively, we got to admit there's not a bad thing on that list.
No, there's not. It's ridiculous. And so we got to stand up. As Christ followers, we got to stand up. And
Mm-hmm.
we got to stop living like the world because the Bible says we're supposed to be set apart from the world.
Absolutely.
And that means living the way God would want us to live. And you know, in the Bible, He gives us all the answers that we need.
All of it. Yeah.
Yes. And you know, why is it? Sometimes we're stupid. We don't want to listen and we don't want to learn.
Right, because the biblical lessons, I mean, sure they're talking about times long ago, but those concepts are lasting. I mean, you have to put a little bit of thought into applying some of it, but it's very relevant. I mean, and extremely practically applicable.
It is, and that's why it's called the living word.
Mm-hmm.
It was just as good in Moses' time as it is in our time.
Yeah,
It's very relevant.
new technology, new stuff,
Yes,
but ultimately the core problems are still the same sin issues.
right. And even if you don't believe in Jesus Christ and you don't have that relationship, and you have two options, one is heaven, one is hell. And we're all going to die sometime.
Mm-hmm.
And we are not promised tomorrow.
No, no, we're not.
Which would you rather try? And which would you lay your money on? If you were a betting person, where would you rather spend your life?
I mean, heaven, of course,
Right,
and the whole thing of faith. It's not
right,
it's not about fire insurance, so to speak, but
right.
but that is probably the most important kind of core issue of the whole thing is where your eternity is going to be.
It is. So we just have to stop the madness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people are sad these days.
Of course
You know,
they are. Mm-hmm.
they really are striving for love. They really are striving for people to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to be wanted and to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, Sonny, I spent some time out on the street a few weeks ago
Oh yeah.
and I met some new friends.
Do we have footage of this, Grandma?
No, we don't. But I stood out there on the street with my signs
Mm-hmm.
and I gave them the Proverbs 17:22. Laughter is the best
Right. And your
medicine.
signs are just very nice. Maybe a joke or two. Maybe just how are you? Just positive stuff, right?
They are.
Yep.
I gave them one that said, when days are tough, pray and look up. You know, there's lots of them. And I said, do you know God? Because God knows you.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody needs a grandma, but everybody needs Jesus.
Yeah.
And you know, it's time.
Yeah, and everybody, you need Jesus first, but Grandma's the next, thing right under there.
Amen. Oh, I get my heart hanky out for
We
that.
got the heart hanky out.
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
Well, Sonny, it's been a pleasure being with you
Yeah,
today.
Grandma, you always have great insight. We always share some laughs. Always
Laughter
have.
is the best medicine.
And even though earlier you said it was the Attorney General who said the thing before we talked about the Surgeon General, I'm sure there's going to be a lawsuit. So that Attorney General is going to be right in there too.
Oh, probably.
He'll be in there. Don't worry.
Yeah, they'll be all together. But you know, laughing is good for us.
Absolutely, it
And
is.
praying is good for
Yeah,
us.
absolutely, it is.
And living according to the Ten Commandments is good for us.
Absolutely.
So let's everybody do good
Mm-hmm.
and learn to live together.
Absolutely. That's hardly better advice we could give on this show. So I guess that's it for this week, everybody. We'll see you next Saturday. I think Leisa will be back,
I think so.
but we will see Grandma again.
Yes, we will.
So
Stop the madness
stop the madness,
today.
and we will see everybody.
Bye.